I won't go over this whole thing, but something that you guys should be aware of out there. You might have forgot, you might have seen it, you didn't have it saved anyplace, but here we go. November 22nd, 2016 by Bob Owen. Federal trial of Kansas man for manufacturing and selling firearms and silencers without a federal license could very well turn out to be a pivotal case that not only challenge the Constitution of the National Firearms Act of 1934, but every federal firearm act law ever passed in a battle will determine whether the states or the federal government has the constitutional right to pass gun laws. Now this is what that was about. I'm going to put the thing in there and you guys can go read it. After decades of long wait, we finally appear to have a case that's likely to see the United States Supreme Court have to directly examine whether the Founding Fathers meant what they said when they wrote the amendments to the federal Constitution that was designed to tightly bind and constrict the reach of the federal government. You know, what the 21st century Americans simply do not grasp is that the Constitution and Bill of Rights were not written to give rights to the citizens of our then new nation, but instead was written to tightly constrain the federal government. Let's see. Bill of Rights was added to the Constitution to facilitate the concerns of the Anti-Federalists and was meant to have 10 strong chains binding down the then puny federal government to prevent future abuses. The Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights was written by founding fathers who understood the right to bear arms as this natural human right that the Creator bestowed upon each and every human being. How can there be any other right if the right to defend your life is not the most paramount right of them all? I'm going to zoom in on this just a second. The Second Amendment meant that the federal government in Washington had no power to constrain or regulate arms was an unquestioned reality for the first 143 years of our republic. And then the Democrats of the 1930s, under the disreputable and dishonorable Franklin D. Roosevelt, decided the Constitution and Bill of Rights was no longer mattered. FDR and his Congress were bound and determined to enslave the states to the will of his federal government, and the National Firearm Act of 1934 was a direct challenge to the sovereignty of the states to make laws regarding firearms. It was also a thumb in the eye of the founders who had clearly written the Second Amendment was meant what the federal government was constrained from passing gun laws. That's precisely what the founders meant when they wrote the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed upon by the federal government. Quite simply, Congress and the President lacked the constitutional authority to pass any gun laws. Not a single one. The only challenge came was U.S. versus Miller in 1939. Okay. So anyway, this is what's going on, people. I'll put a link to this, and we'll see where your mind takes you. And keep this stuff in mind. Told you before, government, excuse me, the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution ratifies and preserves for every citizen the right to keep and bear arms, and not Congress nor any other instrument of the federal government can infringe upon those rights. They are constitutionally barred from infringing. There's no place in that Constitution that says that Congress has the right to regulate firearms, anything like that. You can't find it in there. But they were using the Internal Revenue to try and change things around. You can't do that. So anyway, I'll put a link to this. You guys look at it, check it out, refresh your memories, and stay vigilant.